very good morning to everyone. So, I would like to begin today's thought of the day with the statement that you are never meant to become someone else, only more of yourself. That is why we always say, love yourself, care for yourself, because that is the most important thing. And just imagine, and I want to send you back to the memory lane when you were 6 years old. Please become one in your memory. And, in those years, someone asks you what you want to be when you grow up. Because I've seen in India that as adults, we love to ask this from kids. Kya banna chahte ho? Right? What do you want to be in your life? And without a single moment of hesitation, without checking with anyone else and saying, or without worrying about placements or package or what neighbors will think, you answer loudly, confidently, and probably with your arms out for dramatic effect. You know, kids are that way. And maybe you said dancer, maybe you said astronaut. Kids are really amazed by that. And maybe, and this is a very Indian answer, that you said cricketer or singer or my personal favorite, superhero with my own logo. And then life happened. School happened. Relatives happened. Board exams happened. And the very reasonable concern about a stable income happened. And slowly, so slowly that you barely noticed it, that 6-year-old voice got quieter and quieter and quieter. Until one day, maybe it was yesterday, maybe it was 10 years ago, and you looked in the mirror and thought, when did I become this version of myself? And is this actually me? That question, that one quiet, searching, sometimes terrifying question, that is where today's session begins. So, before beginning, let me ask you, who has ever asked this question from themselves? Is there anybody? You can raise your hand. Yes, that question has been asked. That ye main kahan aa gaya? This is not what I thought as a child. Because today, thank you for acknowledging. Because today we are not talking about who you should be or who you were told to be or who you have been performing as for the last several years. Today we talk about who you actually are and the extraordinary, difficult, beautiful journey of becoming that person. So it's something we are not taught in school, in college, or in 47 unsolicited career conversations that happen at every Indian family gathering. Who you are is not fixed. It's not decided at birth or at your 10th standard results or at the moment someone handed you a job offer and your family exhaled collectively in relief. Who you are is something you are always, always in the process of discovering. The ancient Sanskrit concept of Swadhyaya, self study, self inquiry, was considered so essential that it was woven into Yoga Sutras as a daily practice, not a one time exercise, a daily practice. Because the ancient ones understood something that a productivity obsessed LinkedIn profile polishing world has largely forgotten. You're not a finished product, you're a living inquiry. So, the most interesting project you will ever work on is yourself. And unlike every other project, it doesn't have a deadline. So, self discovery is not a navel gazing. It's not selfish. It is not a luxury reserved for people who have too much free time and a very nice journal. It is the foundational work, the work that makes every other role you play richer, realer, and more genuinely yours. So you cannot give from a place you have never visited. And the place you need to visit first, always, is yourself. So I would once again say, never ever undermine visiting your own self. Never forget it. Let me tell you about Shreya. She's 31, a software engineer at a well regarded firm in Hyderabad. On paper, she's exactly what she was supposed to be. Her father is an engineer, her elder brother is an engineer. The path was so well worn in a family that it felt less like a choice and more like a corridor, comfortable, well lit, with no windows. What nobody knew, not her colleagues, not her manager who liked her work, not even her closest friends, was that Shreya had been writing short stories since she was 14. In Tamil, of course, that's perfectly all right. Quietly, in notebooks she kept in the back of a wardrobe like a secret she wasn't sure she was allowed to have. And when someone once found a notebook and asked about it, she said, oh, that's nothing. That's just time pass, and closed the wardrobe. Just time pass, two words that have quietly buried more authentic selves than any amount of external pressure. The shift happened at a team offsite of all places, when an icebreaker exercise asks everyone to share something nobody knew about them. Shreya almost said she could solve a Rubik cubes, safe, predictable, perfectly fine. Instead, and she still isn't quite sure where this came from, she said, I write stories in Tamil and I have never shown them to anyone. The room was quiet for a second. Then a colleague said, you have to show us one. She did. And 3 months later, she submitted a story to a Tamil literary journal. It was published. She cried for 20 minutes and then ate an entire packet of biscuits, which feels like the correct response. She didn't quit her job. She didn't have a dramatic reinvention. She just opened the wardrobe. Fear and conditioning don't always look like big, obvious walls. Sometimes they look like a wardrobe you've stopped opening. Sometimes becoming yourself is simply a matter of deciding that today I'll open it. Okay, let me tell you one more about one more person, Usha. She's 47. She has spent the last 2 decades being, by her own description, a very good version of what everyone needed me to be: the patient daughter in law, the involved mother, the reliable neighbor who always has something to offer at the colony's Diwali function, and who always volunteers for the jobs nobody else wants, because she was raised to believe that saying no is a form of selfishness. And she was so thoroughly shaped by what other people needed from her that if you had asked at 45, Usha, what do you actually like? What makes you feel like yourself? She would have looked at you with genuine baffled confusion. Not because she was incapable of the answer, but because nobody had ever asked. And she had stopped asking herself. And then her younger sister visited for a week. And on day 3, over chai that had gone slightly cold because they had been talking so long, the sister asked, Didi, when was the last time you did something just because you wanted to? Not for the children, not for the house, not because it needed doing, just for you. And Usha thought about it for a genuinely long time. And then she said, I used to paint. Used to? Yeah, before I got married, I was quite good, I think. And why did you stop? Usha opened her mouth and found she had no answer that made sense anymore. She bought a set of watercolors the following week, Nothing expensive, a small student set from the stationery shop near the market. She painted on Sunday mornings before anyone was awake, just for herself, not for Instagram, not for Colony's Diwali function, just for her own self. And she told me that the first Sunday she sat with those pains and the house was quiet, she had nowhere to be and nothing to perform. She felt something she had almost forgotten the name of: peace. So you don't find yourself by looking outward at what everyone needs you to be. You find yourself in the quiet moments when you are finally, simply, only yourself. So let me give you today's exercise. It's three words followed by your most honest answer, and it is perhaps the most important thing you will write today. So, as always, be ready with your pen and notebook. You have to complete a sentence. The sentence is: the real me is someone who, and please complete it. I say that again. The real me, it's someone who, and please complete it, not the me who is trying to meet expectations, not the me who is performing capability or competence or contentment, not the me that exists in other people's descriptions of you, the real one. Yes, be honest, be true to your own self. Because maybe you write, the real me is someone who finds deep joy in cooking, not because I have to, but because there is something meditative about it that nobody in my house seems to understand. And if anyone of you is writing that you find deep joy in cooking, please invite me for a dinner, right? And maybe the real me is someone who is far more introverted than the version I show at work, and who finds large social situations exhausting in a way I've never told anyone. Or maybe the real me is someone who has always wanted to travel alone, solo trip, just once, somewhere, and has never given themselves permission. Yes, solo trip, yes, it can be an awakening trip. And maybe the real me is someone who cries at movies and pretends not to. Whatever it is, write it without editing, without apologizing, without immediately following it up with the reason why that version of you is impractical or inconvenient or too much. And I'm sure by now everyone has written it. And then this is the step most people skip. Do one thing today that lets that real version of you exist, even briefly, even imperfectly, even in a small corner of your actual life. Because you don't have to overhaul your life to begin becoming yourself. You just have to let yourself show up in it. Yes. Be for once who you are. There's a concept in pottery called throwing. When a potter throws clay on a wheel, they don't start with the finished shape in mind that they impose on the clay. They start with their hands on the clay, feeling it, responding to it, discovering what it wants to become as much as deciding what to make it. The best potters will tell you that the most beautiful pieces are not the ones most tightly controlled. They are the ones where the potter listened to the clay. So you're both the potter and the clay. You have spent years, understandably, necessarily, being shaped by the world around you, by your family, your culture, your circumstances, your fears, the opinions of people who meant well, and occasionally some who did not. All of that has made you who you are today. And who you are today is not wrong, it is simply not finished. So, the invitation now, at whatever age you are, in whatever chapter you are in, is to put your own hands on the wheel, to listen to yourself the way a potter listens to the clay, to ask, what does this want to become? What have I been too afraid, too busy, too conditioned to let emerge? You were never meant to become someone else, not the person your parents imagined, not the person your school ranked, not the person your society designed a template for. Only gloriously, quietly, stubbornly more of yourself. So here is your call to action. Of course, I feel it is intimate because it's yours entirely. So complete your sentence today. The real me is someone who, of course, you have written it. Say it loud. Yes. Let the world hear it. Let it exist outside of you, on paper, in the air, in the world, for the first time, or the first time in a very long time. And then take one small step towards that person. Not next year, not when things settle down, because they'll never do. Not when you're ready, because the truth is, you will never feel completely ready to be yourself. Nobody does. But you can still begin. And beginning, showing up as even a small, imperfect, tentative fraction of who you actually are is the most courageous thing a person can do in a world. There's so many other plans for you. Because the journey of you, or the journey of becoming you, is the only journey that was ever truly yours. And let's say it begins now. So, with that thought, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you.